You can sew an adorable tote to hold your Bible or another favorite book. This project is sponsored by allfreesewing.com. Measure around the width of your book. Add 2 inches. This measurement will be the length of the cover. Then measure how tall the book is. Add 1.5 inches. Cut the outer fabric, the inner fabric, and the interfacing to those measurements. Cut 2 pockets the same height as your book plus 1.5 inches. Make it 8 inches in width. Also cut a piece of interfacing. Cut 2 pieces of interfacing the same height, but 4 inches wide. Next, you'll need to decide how long you'd like your handles to be. Wrap a flexible tape measure around the book and hold the tape up to see what a comfortable length is. Then double that number and add 1 inch. Cut a strip of inner fabric to 1.5 inches in width, and the outer fabric to 2.5 inches in width. Cut them to the length you determined. Chances are your fabric won't be long enough. That's okay, you can cut extra strips to make up for the length. Just don't forget to add in a seam allowance. If you need to lengthen with another piece, sew right sides together and don't forget to press your seam. Next, you're going to fold in the edges of the strip to meet in the center. When you press, the pattern should be face up. Repeat these steps for the other strip as well. The wider strip should have the side with the slit face up. Then lay the skinnier strip on top of it, with the slit on the back. Pin together. Continue pinning the entire length of the strip. Use an overcast stitch or a zigzag stitch on both raw ends to prevent fraying. Then sew the strips together 1/4 inch in on the skinny strip. Sew on both the right and left edges. Remove the pins. Make the strip into a loop by putting right sides together. Sew the end using a 1/2 inch seam. Press the seam open. Center the strap on the piece of outer fabric. Pin in place. You'll start and end sewing 2 inches from each edge, so mark those measurements so you don't sew too far. Sew on the strap following the stitches of your previous seams exactly. Don't forget, start sewing 2 inches from the edge and stop sewing 2 inches from the end. Remove the pins. Center and sew on a button about 3 inches from one end. If you want to add decorative trim, now's the time to pin it in place. Line it up with the edge of the fabric. Your trim should not extend past the edge of your fabric. Sew the trim in place with a 1/4 inch seam. Remove the pins. Time for the pockets. Fold the fabric in half so it measures 4 inches wide by 8 inches tall. Insert the interfacing between the layers. To make the pen holders, cut 2 pieces of elastic to 7 inches. Fold one piece in half to make a loop and zigzag the ends together. Pin onto a pocket panel about 1/4 inch in from the folded edge. Vertical zigzag stitches to create the pen holders. Repeat those steps on the other panel. Pin the panels to the interior fabric piece. All fabrics should be face up. Pin the interior fabric, the exterior fabric, and the interfacing together. Sew with a 1/4-inch seam on the long sides only. Remove the pins. Turn right side out and press. Turn in the raw edges at the end with the button. Pin in place. Then fold and pin the opposite side, leaving a gap in the center. Insert the end of a hair elastic into the gap and pin. Finally, top stitch around the entire cover using a 1/4-inch seam. Backstitch over the hair elastic for durability. Remove the pins. For more project ideas and tutorials, visit madebymarzipan.com.